There is a specific moment when you realize your entire career is about to be dismantled by someone who does not even understand what you do. For me, that moment arrived during a mandatory morning meeting filled with stale pastries and an overwhelming sense of dread. I stood at the back of the room watching our newly appointed executive prepare to alter the fate of our financial technology firm without a single shred of real operational knowledge. My name is Valerie, and my expertise lies in high-level network security compliance. For over a decade, I maintained the heavily fortified infrastructure that connected our private firm to federal monetary systems. It was a tedious, demanding position that required absolute precision because any single mistake could result in a massive national security breach. I preferred working in the shadows, keeping the digital perimeter perfectly locked down while others chased corporate praise. Then leadership brought in Preston Vance as our new Vice President of Technology. Preston was a walking billboard for corporate buzzwords who wore expensive designer vests and possessed zero technical competence. In his first month, he managed to lock himself out of basic administrative portals multiple times, while simultaneously lecturing veteran engineers about the future of digital innovation. He viewed our existing physical hardware as an embarrassing relic of the past, rather than a defense shield. Our former director Arthur had explicitly built this system around a strict federal mandate. We held a billion-dollar government transaction contract that legally required a localized air-gapped server node to validate cryptographic data keys. Arthur understood that this was the foundational anchor of our entire business revenue stream. Preston, however, lacked the capacity to grasp why a tech company would rely on solid steel boxes instead of modern cloud computing networks. During that crowded meeting, Preston pointed at me and announced that my position was completely redundant. He explained that the company was migrating all operations to an automated external cloud vendor to maximize efficiency. He demanded that I surrender my custom-engineered security laptop immediately so it could be repurposed for summer interns. The entire room fell silent as my colleagues watched a decade of dedicated loyalty wiped away with a single arrogant gesture. That heavy matte black workstation was not a standard corporate computer. It was a highly sensitive federal asset requiring biological verification to access the operating core. I asked Preston if he was entirely certain about confiscating this specific piece of machinery. He snapped at me to leave it on the table and turn in my security credentials without causing a scene. I placed the machine down alongside my clearance badge and quietly walked out into the morning sun. My home office was designed to be the absolute opposite of that chaotic corporate environment. I sat in front of my clean triple monitor configuration, feeling the sharp sting of rejection turn into frozen calculation. Preston did not realize that my role as the official government custodian did not end with my termination. Washington paperwork takes weeks to clear, which meant I was still legally responsible for the safety of those encryption keys. I accessed the secure government portal using my personal hardware token and secondary authentication protocols. The system logs immediately revealed that the confiscated laptop was actively running instead of entering automatic hibernation. Preston had initiated a forced hard reboot and was currently trying to bypass the primary BIOS protection protocols using his standard corporate administrator password. He was trying to open a high-security federal vault using a generic employee keycard. The screen suddenly flashed a brilliant amber alert indicating a critical perimeter breach on the device. Preston had plugged the highly classified air-gapped machine directly into the Open Office Internet network. He had completely exposed a secure federal gateway to the public web just to see if he could bypass my settings. This action crossed the line from a simple corporate dispute into a severe federal offense that carried massive prison sentences. The machine fooled him by entering an automated honeypot mode, which presented a collection of fake digital folders to track user activity. I watched the system monitor as Preston browsed through empty files, believing he had successfully cracked the network. He then uploaded a massive presentation file titled Marketing Strategy Final Version 2. He was planning to use this specialized military-grade laptop as a deceptive visual prop for an upcoming client meeting. I immediately contacted my primary federal handler, Agent Thomas, and provided a detailed breakdown of the ongoing security compromise. Agent Thomas confirmed that their remote telemetry systems were already recording erratic behavior and unauthorized data uploads from that specific terminal. I explained that Preston was preparing to demonstrate the live encryption asset to an outside defense contractor the following afternoon. The agency decided to hold their response to capture definitive proof of criminal intent. By 9 o'clock the next morning, the entire corporate office was descending into complete digital paralysis. The central authentication servers required my manual daily handshake protocol, which was now completely absent. Without that verification, the system assumed a hostile takeover had occurred and triggered a total security lockdown. Employees could not log into their accounts, emails were bouncing continuously, and the building security badges stopped working entirely. My former colleague Chloe called me from a hidden corner of the office restroom to describe the building panic. She explained that Preston was sprinting down the hallways, blaming the entire technical failure on my supposed personal sabotage. He was currently using the classified black laptop in the main boardroom because it was the only stable machine left functioning. The sheer irony was beautiful, since the machine only worked because it ran on separate federal architecture. I put on my formal professional audit suit and drove over to the corporate facility to witness the resolution. 2 unmarked dark federal vehicles were already waiting at the curb with their engines idling quietly. I joined Agent Thomas and his team as they reviewed the final real-time audio recordings from the device. Preston had actually ordered his assistant to place a commercial sticker over the government property markers to hide them. We walked directly through the chaotic main lobby, flanked by multiple federal law enforcement officials. We entered the dim boardroom just as Preston was finishing his rehearsed sales pitch under the glow of the projector light. He yelled at us to leave, claiming he had an incredibly important client meeting starting in 20 minutes. Agent Thomas simply walked to the wall, flipped on the main lights, and identified himself as a federal inspector. Preston stammered that the laptop was corporate property and insisted that he had every right to retain the asset. Agent Thomas ignored the shouting, ordered him to step away from the device, and pulled out a pair of precision tweezers. The investigator carefully peeled away the cheap plastic sticker that Preston had purchased to mask the casing. Underneath lay the bright red government engraving detailing severe federal penalties for unauthorized handling. The arrogance completely evaporated from the face of Preston as the realization of his situation finally settled in. The federal team placed him in handcuffs and packed the secure machine into a specialized signal blocking bag for transport. He was escorted out through the crowded bullpen, sobbing openly in front of the exact same employees he had terrorized. I watched from the hallway, knowing that his short career as a disruptive executive was permanently finished. The government immediately cancelled all active contracts with the firm, causing 60% of their total corporate revenue to disappear overnight. The chief executive officer called me 2 days later, offering a massive promotion and a tripled salary to fix the disaster. I declined the permanent position but agreed to operate as an independent external consultant at an incredibly high hourly rate. True power does not come from a fancy corporate title or a polished presentation.